Hello and welcome to the Mushroom Murder Trial podcast, a show about the convicted triple murderer, Erin Patterson. My name is Lisa and we have another update as the legal action in the mushroom murder case keeps bubbling along behind the scenes. Today we're going to talk about two of Australia's most notorious radio shock jocks, Kyle Sandilands and Jackie O. Henderson. So you may ask, what did they have to do with the mushroom murderer? For years, the Kyle and Jackie O brand has thrived on controversy, crude humour, on-air stunts that push the limits, and a long history of regulatory warnings. But this time, the outrage didn't come from a prank or a headline-grabbing joke. It came from something far more serious, comments made during the middle of Erin Patterson's murder trial. Now, this update, it is based on an article from The Guardian Australia's justice correspondent, Nino Bookie. 4 months after comments about Erin Patterson went to prosecutors for review, Victoria's Office of Public Prosecutions is still deciding whether to bring contempt of court charges against the KISS FM hosts. Justice Christopher Beale referred the matter for investigation in June after hearing a segment of the Kyle and Jackie O, in which Sandilands said, "Just lock that B up." I can't say, obviously, I'll get censored, but yes, just lock that B up. And he claimed the prosecution's case was weak. Well, a shock jock would know that, wouldn't they? You're an expert when it comes to law and order, Kyle. Thanks for that. The OPP confirmed to The Guardian Australia that these potential contempt of court matters remain under consideration. Prosecutors are also examining a separate referral concerning remarks about Patterson made during a live show on May 31 at Melbourne's Hamer Hall, titled The Psychology of Serial Killers. Both incidents came up in court during the Patterson trial. The jury was asked by Justice Beale if anyone had attended an event in Melbourne the previous weekend. When one jury member confirmed they'd been to the football, the judge was satisfied with the response, because no one had mentioned they'd been to the Psychology of Serial Killers. Now, I don't quite know if Erin is a serial killer. Isn't she a mass killer? Anyway, in Australia, contempt of court is any conduct that undermines the authority, integrity or dignity of the court or the administration of justice, such as disobeying court orders, refusing to answer questions or engaging in disrespectful behaviour in court. They can all constitute contempt. Penalties can include fines or imprisonment. That does happen to journalists when they won't reveal their sources. But I'll move on. In the same statement to The Guardian, the Office of Public Prosecutors noted that they're still weighing whether to appeal Erin Patterson's life sentence, something that rarely happens unless a penalty is considered manifestly too low. So Patterson was sentenced on September 8 to life imprisonment with a non-parole period of 33 years for the murders of Don and Gail Patterson and Heather Wilkinson and the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson. To update you on Kyle, so neither his bosses ARN Media, which owns KISS FM, nor organisers of the serial killer event have responded publicly. Meanwhile, the Australian Communications and Media Authority is separately assessing the KISS network for repeated breaches involving offensive on-air material. When Justice Beale addressed the court back in June, he cautioned media commentators to, quote, engage their brains before they open their mouths to avoid contempt risks. But a Guardian Australia review of that day's podcast with Kyle and Jackie O found the co-hosts speculating on Patterson's guilt and discussing phone tower evidence while the trial was still active. Conduct the judge described as potentially prejudicial. Could that come up in any appeal that Erin runs? We shall see. So, according to The Guardian, his co-host, Jackie Henderson, asked soon after, my question is, how strong is her case? She doesn't have to prove anything. It's up to the prosecution to prove guilt or otherwise. So, not strong for her, Sandilands responded. This is hilarious. He's just a little shock jock. He's not a lawyer. The pair and a newsreader who should have known better continued to discuss the case, including the mobile phone tower evidence, and Sandilands incorrectly said, hasn't she done something like this before with the mushrooms? Sandilands went on to say, but the rest of us already know, yeah, you F. Come on, bro. You can't tell by looking at her. Just lock that B up. Is he charming? Henderson could be heard laughing while Sandilands, that's just the story of her life. She just sits there and laughs and enables this guy. So Henderson could be heard laughing while Sandilands spoke out about the case before he said, you ready? It takes too long. Court should be in and out, decided and moved on. Henderson then said, well, until it's your turn one day when you're accused, right, what am I going to be accused of? Well, looks like you're in a bit of trouble down in Melbourne. I really think that someone should have used that dump button that they have in radio with this commentary, but obviously not. But don't underestimate the Office of Public Prosecutions, because in June 2021, some of Australia's most well-known newspapers, websites and radio stations were fined more than $1 million for being in contempt of court during the child sex abuse trial of Cardinal George Pell. A dozen major media outlets, which included Herald and Weekly Times, Herald Sun, Fairfax, the SMA, Australian Financial Review, they were ordered by Victoria's Supreme Court to pay more than $1.1 million after pleading guilty to breaching a suppression order. Cardinal Pell's child sex convictions were later overturned by the High Court of Australia, and he, when he was alive, maintained his innocence. So this is what Justice John Dixon said in the Supreme Court of Victoria, which was the same court where Erin's trial played out. The reporting of News Life Media, the publisher of news.com.au, and The Age Company, the publisher of The Age, in particular constituted a blatant and willful defiance of the court's authority. They each took a deliberate risk by intentionally advancing a collateral attack on the role of suppression orders in Victoria's criminal justice system. Well, I have my own opinions about that, but I'll get in trouble if I criticise a judge. See, journalists, they watch us. Another update, which was on my most recent episode, that you could have a look at if you want to know more. Lawyers for Patterson last week flagged an appeal against her conviction. The Supreme Court of Victoria heard Patterson will appeal her 4 guilty verdicts. And that was the word from an administrative hearing in Melbourne. So thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great long weekend. Like and subscribe this podcast and follow the Mushroom Murder Trial podcast. You could also get more information from my website, mushroom.murdertrial.com. So thank you. Have a great day, and I shall speak to you very, very soon. Thanks. Bye.